Without a doubt, it's getting harder and harder to run this Christian race. But Jesus promised us that. He promised us a few things. He promised us that the love of many would wax cold. He promised us that there would be persecution, there'll be trials and tribulations and temptations. And I tell you, there hasn't been any truer words spoken, especially regarding the time in which we live. So I've been dealing with a few things in my walk with Christ too, and I've been stumbling and struggling. And so I just want to know if it's just me, you know. And so let me ask you a question or two. The first question I want to ask you is that I've asked myself: what condition is your heart in? And have you judged your heart lately? And the reason I ask is because I'm realizing that, me included, many are letting their own hearts lead them astray. I'm as guilty as the next guy, and it's just getting intense. The battle is getting intense for the true believer. And so, do you consider the will of God when you hear from your heart? I know that sometimes when we hear from our heart, we hear from a perspective of anger or concern or fear. But do we consider what the Word of God says about our own hearts? And so I was challenged a couple of days ago with a panhandler outside of the convenience store. And I can imagine how it looked to God when the panhandler asked me for a few bucks. And I gave him a half promise. I'll see what I have when I come out, you know, that kind of promise. And then I went in not considering that that man was outside cold and possibly hungry or thirsty. Went in there, made a transaction with my debit card, came out, then I looked at him and said, yeah, I can't help you, bro. And that is not God's best. Not only for me, but especially for the person in need. And so I realized that we're distribution houses for the needy, and we're supposed to be loving one another as we love ourselves. And so I failed miserably in that. So I'm just asking, is it just me? How do we treat that panhandler? How do we treat loved ones or even relatives that are in need or addicted or homeless? How do we treat one another? You know, how do we treat each other in relationships, in friendships, in marriages? And so I remember when that WWJD came out, what would Jesus do? So I need to reach back in the annals of the 1990s, you know, and ask myself that every time I'm challenged with issues like what I just talked about. Let's judge our own hearts. Let's do what Jesus would do in every situation. For I realize how blessed I am, and most of the time have the means to help, but don't. And so I need to do better. I'm asking you all, my followers, my friends, my relatives, to help me do better. And so, yeah, I just want to rap to you for a second and let you know what's going on with me, and hopefully we'll get this thing together, that we would be able to display the love of Jesus in how we treat one another. And so thank you so much for listening and watching this reel. And yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. And that's right, we'll see you.